Welcome to episode 36 of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast, covering the week of April 17th to April 23rd, 2017. I was worried this week that I wouldn't have enough to talk about, but it actually ramped up and I've got a lot of stuff to talk about. So it should be a fun time discussing Trump issues and politics, some tech, about mentoring and practice, and how to have the energy to do everything. And just technical stuff with regards to the practice, with regard to EAD delays, general delays in the processing, selective service, USCIS SAVE, and more. Looking forward to going through all of it with you. Welcome to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. I am the host, Attorney John Khosravi, and I practice U.S. immigration law exclusively. For more information about the program, please visit www.immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. Please note that this recording is informational only and does not constitute legal advice. Please consult with a licensed attorney for specific legal guidance that suits your case. Also, this recording is copyrighted and written permission is required for rebroadcasting. For more information about me, please visit www.jqqlaw.com. One of the interesting things that's happened in the last couple of weeks of posting this podcast is when I title the podcast with the name of Donald Trump, starting with Trump and then whatever, the number of downloads doubles, which is interesting. I don't like to play games to get more listeners, but it's interesting to see what effect that has and to cause people to listen to it more. I think it's probably people that aren't practitioners who think this is going to be some political topic that's going to be going over Trump and how bad he is and all that kind of stuff. And then they listen to it and they see it's like a very technical thing for immigration lawyers. That's probably boring for regular people. But I mean, definitely the stuff that's happening in immigration isn't boring. Lawsuits are still happening and cases are being heard about the executive orders for the so-called Muslim ban. It's not clear what's going to happen with that. I think early May there's going to be another hearing. But that's probably going to the Supreme Court if President Trump pushes it there. But he did have a speech and declared some stuff about reviewing H-1Bs. There wasn't much substance to it, so it's not clear what's going to happen. But for sure, behind the scenes, they could do a lot of things to create problems for H-1Bs, more site visits, all that kind of stuff. We'll see what happens. With them taking off premium processing off the table, which was a great revenue source, and then take that money and blowing it on their failed online system. I don't know how they have the money to hire enough people to do all this kind of stuff, site inspections and all that. Even with the, $500 fraud fee or whatever that they do, they're just going to be stretched thin. And they don't have enough employees to do this. So, again, either the standards of the employees and hire is going to go low, and then the problem is you have to train those people. It takes a long time. It's just going to mean a general slowdown. And you can see that in the delays that are happening. EADs for like marriage to U.S. citizen cases are taking more than 90 days. They emailed out actually saying a bunch of cases are being delayed and they're being transferred from different services centers to deal with the flow of cases they have. So a slowdown is happening, which sucks. Now, most of my cases, at least my business cases, haven't saw a slowdown, getting approved below the average wait time. But I have random naturalization cases, and I talked about this last time, that are taking like 7 or 8 months, while some other ones are taking 2 months to finish. It's really bizarre. But the EAD is a problem because I have a couple of married couples that are here, and they want their spouse to get a work permit and social security number, and instead of 90 days, it's going 120 days, and still nothing's happening. It really stresses them out. And in line with all the fun stuff that they always do, they change the lockbox address for certain cases to go to different states. So definitely, if you're going to mail out something, always check out the USCIS website for the current address. Don't expect it to be the same or bigger announcements than the basic email I get from USCIS. But interesting thing is, the administration, for security reasons, had banned bringing certain electronics to the U.S. when flying directly from like 10 airports in the Middle East. And this has caused Emirates, one of the biggest international airlines, to ground a fifth of his fleet that were traveling to the U.S. So it took a big hit on that. Surprising you don't hear about the news and complain or anything. I guess they can't really make a big fuss about it, but that's a big hit for airline to take such a lucrative route. But other fun stuff, the president talks that he's going to do a lot of stuff immigration, but still a lot of it is still talk. It's not clear what's going to happen. Like discussions about putting the visa waiver program under review and analyzing more because of fear of threats coming in from Europeans potentially or people that have European citizenship that could come in. There was an end to TPS for a couple of West African countries that had TPS for a while due to the Ebola virus outbreak, but that's come to an end. Interestingly, if the administration really figures out more about TPS and the TPS that has for Yemen and other Middle Eastern countries, they might stop those too. But it's been under the radar, thankfully, for those who have been able to stay here. A really messed up thing is a DACA recipient became the first person that was actually deported. Apparently, this young guy had some sort of mental issues or health issues that made him unable to really communicate his stance. But he was at the border at a friend's house, got caught by CBP, didn't carry his DACA card on him or proof or ID and stuff, and then they just expedited removed him. Now he's suing to come back in. Now I've seen this a lot. I've had like a marriage case where a DACA person came in, and I was like, do you have your DACA proof? And he brought it out, and it was his old DACA. He's like, I don't want to bring a new one out. I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. I'm like, well, take a photocopy of it at least and carry it with you. If you're DACA, or even if you're a green card, have at least a photocopy of your ID in your wallet or purse to carry with you to avoid these kind of situations. It's unfortunate that this has to be the case, but it is right now. So I always tell clients, take the IDs or DACA or whatever you have it on you at all times. It's not worth the risk. But then our president is potentially going to go other avenues too that they believe affect security. One is in Asylum. There are cases where people are, for example, kidnapped and forced to pay ransom to some terrorist organizations against their will just to save their lives. Well, that looks like material support for like a terrorist organization, but there have been waivers when you can explain there was no intent to help the organization, they were just under threat. But there's talk about challenging and not allowing them to do that waiver, which is very harsh. I mean, you get hit by both ends. One is you abducted by one of these groups, and then you're going to get denied asylum because you're forced to participate or contribute to them. It reminds me of a situation in West Africa, the country where Boko Haram comes and kidnaps young women. Apparently, like when the women get kidnapped, they get taken away and abused in various ways. If they're able to get released or they run away and they come back to their towns, they're not trusted because people think they've been brainwashed or now they support them. So their life is just this hit double whammy outside their control. I think that's the scariest thing for people when things happen outside their control that really hit things really hard. And I can imagine getting taken away by one of these groups and then let go, and then people don't trust you. It reminds me of the show Homeland a little bit. But it's a bad situation. And along with that, or not along with that, but F-1 students, those who go to certain language institutions and certain schools, the schools have lost their accreditation. And I could see this happening. I thought it was going to happen because there was a crackdown, especially by CBP, of people coming here and getting F-1 visas just for the sake of being in the U.S. as an excuse to have an extended tourist visa because their families could afford, paying, what the tuition is. But they're cracking down on these schools more and more. There's been, raids of these fake schools that just get paid for bringing students here and issuing I-90s. But their loss of accreditation is going to hit a lot of people. I'm sure they're authentic students that are going to the schools, and now they're facing being out of status. That's a tough one. Now on to some technical stuff. So one thing that's been a hassle is one of my cases, an L2 case, dependent spouse of L1. And she's had her driver's license for 2 years, renewed the L1, went to get the driver's license, and DMV says, we don't recognize your status, we can't give you a driver's license. And this is in California. So apparently they go into USCIS Save, and somehow in the system it says she doesn't have status, even though she has the documentation to show it. What makes it terrible is this woman has a young child, a baby. She needs to take the baby to the doctor, get food, all this kind of stuff. And so she was forced to drive without a license because she's waiting on this, and she got a ticket for that. So it's just unfair when these systems don't connect, especially when you're dealing with the bureaucracy of the DMV. Connect that with USCIS, and then you have a double whammy of issues. So I've told them to go to the field office. We're going to write letters to the USCIS Save to see if we can correct the record. But I'm not optimistic because I know how these things go. It's really random. If you've had experience like this, let me know how you deal with it. What's the best way to deal with it? Another thing that came up on a new case is for naturalization. So, a gentleman comes here, young age, gets a green card through his family, and is supposed to sign up for the Selective Service Draft. Now, I'm sure you've all had cases like this. People don't know what the Selective Service Draft is. It's not something that's talked about. Essentially, it's the conscription draft the U.S. has, where young men at 18 have to sign up when they're a U.S. person, green card holder, citizen, or even if they're legal. As long as they're not a non-immigrant visa, like H-1B or something like that, or H-4, or just a dependent. They have to sign up for this in case war breaks out. Their name's on the list. It's kind of weird, but you still have to do that. And so a lot of foreigners just forget to do that. When naturalization time rolls around, that becomes a moral conduct issue. So my client actually is like older, he's in mid-30s now. So it's outside the 5-year period, and according to like the website and everything, once 31 hits, even if you didn't sign up intentionally and you had some sort of malice or knowledge and intent not to sign up, it doesn't matter for moral character. But if it was before 31, you have to get this certain statement, a letter from the Selective Service, statement of status. And so when a person's over 31, I don't think you need that. I had a case a couple years ago that we just wrote a letter and it was okay. But this one popped up, so I wanted to get some more information, and I posted on the AO listserv how people are dealing with it. And most people just said, write a letter if you want to be safe, do this, make the request for a Selective Service statement. Some websites said it takes like a year or two to get that, which is not happening. But also that statement from the Selective Service requires a lot of information and documentation. In this case, the gentleman was here first, had made several tourist trips with his family, then parents got H, and then they got the green card. And the Selective Service Draft wants documentation of the entries and exits and what status they were and proof of being here, all this kind of stuff. And it just adds on a ton of work. And in my opinion, it's not necessary based on how the adjudicator's field manual especially breaks it down. After 31, it doesn't matter. Why would you need a statement after 31? So most people on the list are saying we don't do it, we don't need it. But there was one person, I think it was from South Dakota, that said our office expects it. So that's an inconsistency if that's the case. I don't think it's necessary. The regulations bear that out. Even if you go to the Selective Service website, it says USCIS shouldn't ask about that for people over 31. Their own website says it. So I'm going to print that out, the adjudicator's field manual. So probably not with the application, but when I go to the interview, I'm going to bring that in case the officer asks about that. I doubt it's going to happen in Los Angeles, which is where the case will be held and heard. But that's something that we have to push back on. Maybe Ayla get some final language on that. Maybe they do. I just don't know about it. But if you hear about this or know about this or have dealt with this issue, let me know. We got to develop some sort of consistency, because getting this Selective Service statement is extra work, time consuming, and as the regulations go, it's unnecessary. So we shouldn't have to put people through that. Okay, so what's going on in my practice? Non just personal stuff. I finally bit the bullet and got some tech for case processing, intake, and all that kind of stuff. I had contacted almost all the companies. I think like 2 that were left. One was Prima Facie. I didn't get into that. And one was maybe Clio or something like that. But also, one that was highly talked about was Lawley Law. And I wanted to definitely give that one a shot. But when I went to their website, there was all sorts of glitches on the website. It was hard to contact them. It was confusing. And that just put me off. I said, well, if their website is like this, then shoot, I don't really want to mess around with it. There was another one called ImiPro, which looked like a website from 1985. And one of my buddies said, give it a shot and stuff. But I looked at it, and he was thinking about getting it. But the website was so outdated. I'm like, come on, if you're a tech company, have a little bit more of a modern feel for your website. That might not be the best way to judge something like that, but I just let it go. So the 2 that are really felt strongest one was based on the demos they gave. And a lot of these companies, especially the big ones, only show you a demo when you're on your screen when you're talking to them, but they don't really give it to you to do. Maybe if you ask special permission, they will. But one of them was, let's see, what was it called? I think Tracker, which was pretty good. I think that was my number 2. It was called Tracker. And I actually liked them a lot. The software looked good and all that. But the one I chose was INS Zoom. INS Zoom didn't have a contract period where Tracker had a year contract period. The prices were similar. Based on the demo, it looked like INS Zoom looked a little better. But I'll talk about that in a second. One thing, the first one I talked with was Serenade by Immigration. And they let you test out the software. But I just didn't like how it felt and how my customers would fill it out. And so that one's off the list, but that's the most popular one in immigration. And to be honest, now looking at it after getting INS Zoom, I realized my goal was to like have clients fill out the my intakes and questionnaires, particularly for marriage cases, and have that just go into the forms and save me like 2 hours of time. But going through these various types of form systems now, I realized I probably have to just continue with my own intake, plug it into the program myself, and that might save an hour of time. Instead of having the client connect directly to the forms like that, I'd have to be a middle person to clean it up when it goes in there. But instead of having to type out 5 years employment history, 5 years addresses, the same residential addresses, social security numbers over again, this software could solve that and save me time and not make it such a mental block to sit down and do marriage immigration, U.S. citizen marriage adjustment case that has like 8 or 10 forms. So I got on this Zoom. It had the best salesperson of all of them, to be honest, too. But when I actually used it, and I'm still have to do the tutorial, so I'll hold off judgment. But I did try one of my cases to input, as I said, like having my own questionnaire filled out, putting it in there, and I was really disappointed of how it actually was. Now, I still need to learn how to do it, so take that with a huge grain of salt. I'm going to probably do the training this week to see how it is. But I'm down to drop something and move on to the next one if it's not good. Although it is a lump sum, having to pay that initial fee, setup fee, I'll make it up in the end of the hour saved. I just need something that's functional and it works. And so a couple of things I saw on that program I didn't like that are major things, but it could be because I just don't know how to use it. So I'll have to come back to that. But the rest of the week was pretty interesting. I said early in the intro, I thought I wasn't going to have much to talk about, but as always, President Trump creates a lot of stuff to talk about. The bureaucracy of immigration creates a lot to talk about, and just cool stuff going with the office. So, I have this podcast, I do videos, I go speaking gigs, I mentor, I meet with other attorneys, and I handle cases. And one of the things that comes up is, one is like, how do you have time to do all of this, and how do you have the energy to do all of this? Well, with regards to energy, it's interesting. I've unfortunately been, as Donald Trump would put it, a low-energy person for most of my life until my late 20s. I think I had to do because I didn't eat enough. And when I turned 30, I just wanted to eat all the time. I became like a glutton. And that actually helped me out because I have much more energy now, and I think that was the case. But I just have generally more energy than I did. But a big aspect of that is the enthusiasm to do what I do because immigration law is so interesting. You meet interesting people. The law is complex. It's like solving puzzles. And if you're a person like me and you probably went to law school, you find solving puzzles interesting and riddles and all that kind of stuff. So that makes it very fun. And then just meeting cool people, not just the clients, but also the people involved in immigration. This week I had a mentoring session every day of the week with a law student, which is fantastic. I have my own mentees that I just regularly added up over the years and new ones, especially the ones that find me through this podcast and contact me, and I try to help them out. Very good batch of people. I'm just really happy to see that's happening. And then almost every day I had like either a coffee and I don't drink coffee, so I had tea. Actually, had one coffee. I thought I'd just have it. It was Frappuccino something. It's pretty much a bunch of sugar and bitter water. The coffee thing doesn't make sense to me. I just never got into it. But that was that. But I met some good lawyers, immigration lawyers, and one thing that is very frustrating when you're an immigration lawyer. If you're listening to this podcast, that means you care enough about the practice to listen to this kind of stuff. But there's a lot of bad immigration attorneys out there. We see them how they butcher cases, and we see these denials and these appeals and what kind of garbage they write. But at the same time, there's a lot of good immigration attorneys. I know, and here in LA, like I had lunch and coffee a couple times this week with just really outstanding immigration attorneys. And I met with them and talked about case practice and law and everything like that. And it was really exciting to know that this network exists of people. And one thing I started, and my focus is mostly business immigration and family cases, so I don't do asylum, humanitarian, removal, deportation. But I announced, I went online. I had a couple of friends here in the West Los Angeles that do business immigration. And then I went online and found other people's offices and their emails. And I did email blasts of 20 people that do business immigration on the West Side. And I say, the first Saturday every month I'm going to have a business immigration mixer, just small, informal get-together, just going to talk about cases and stuff. So we'll see what happens. I think it happens next week or whatever the first, I can't remember what the days were, but it's in a week or two. But hopefully, add 2 or 3 RSVPs. That's all I need. I really want to talk with one person, but if there's 10, it's better. Everyone could break out in groups and talk. But that's a really good thing to share with practitioners. One thing I've noticed with some lawyers is a couple of them are afraid of really communicating and reaching out. There's this idea of competition, of cases. Oh, we're going to do this. Like in immigration, doesn't matter. We have 6 billion potential clients. All of them want to come here. There's more than enough to go around. So that shouldn't be the case. And one thing that's actually happened is I tell people is however much money I make myself in my office every year, about 150% of that, more than double of what I can make, I refer out. So removal cases, H-1Bs, asylum, cases that have immigration issues. I'm very narrow where I go to investment cases and marriage kind of cases where there's no crazy kind of naturalization and crazy criminal issues. So for me, like most of the people that call me, I can't take on the case and I just refer them out. So there's got to be a lot of attorneys like that, especially attorneys that don't do removal. And that's a great way to develop business is a couple actually attorneys that do trade, or we share a lot of businesses, people who just do removal. When they get business cases, send it my way. And when I get removal asylum, I send it their way. So there is a synergy that could happen that could be beneficial. So it's really good to get out there and speak with other immigration attorneys. But even if you're both doing, like people within a quarter mile of my office are invited and do business immigration, there might be some conflicts, there might be some issues, they might not have enough time to do something on a certain case, or just it's something beyond me, it's too complicated. There's various reasons, but even more importantly, actually sharing information of what issues might exist for an L1 case or this and that. It's really important to mix, and we have a certain type of bar that's different from other firms or other practice areas of law. We're not fighting each other. We're actually working together to fight the system. So it's a really beneficial thing to be free to talk with people, share information. Don't play that game of being secretive. That doesn't work in our practice area, and it's not a good lifestyle. But going back to the mentoring of the students, so I'm the law school liaison, and this is not endorsement or anything about AILA, but I'm the law school committee liaison nationally, and also on the local level on Southern California chapter. I'm one of the law school liaisons there. I do a lot of work, heavy duty work in that area. I'm actually going to be speaking at the law student panel on the first day of AILA's national conference in New Orleans. So if you're a student listening to this, or if not, I think it's on Wednesday around 6 o'clock. Please stop by. I'll be on the panel speaking. I'd love to meet and speak with you. But it's a bittersweet thing, law students. When they do reach out to me and talk, it's really exciting that they show the vision to come out and actually, think outside the box and do some extra for their future. But the biggest problem I have with law students, and I work with a lot of them, and I constantly am on law campuses, talked to more than 1,000 students in the last couple of years, is that they're myopic, and I think that's the term to use, but they don't see past the bar exam. So when I go there and I try to find them jobs, and I do find them jobs, or people call them, or I talk about opportunities for growth, all this kind of stuff, they don't answer the calls, they don't follow up, they miss the meetings and all this kind of stuff, miss the phone calls they're supposed to have with me. They email me for a job and I say, or summer job, and I say, okay, I don't have a job, but call me, I want to tell you what you need to do. And they don't respond to that, or we set up a time and they just disappear, don't answer their phones. I get that a lot. And these aren't from like some crappy school, I'm talking about like top schools. And so it's really amazing how they burn their bridges and how they don't take advantage of opportunities. And it's very frustrating for me because I put myself on the line, have firms call them, they don't answer their calls, so it makes me look bad and creates distrust in the systems I've created with these programs for finding jobs for students and stuff. It makes local practitioners not want to participate because it's a waste of their time. I've had one person tell me, it was appreciated that I did this, but the program I have, when they call the students, they don't return the calls and such, so they don't even bother going to my list of students anymore. So not only does it hurt my reputation, but it hurts the whole program for all the other students. So that's one thing that's a big problem, and I'm on the verge of stopping it actually. I'll give it probably another year, but of having this official program to find law students, summer employment, clerkship stuff. I might end it because the law students are just not on top of it. Maybe individual, if someone proves to me that they're a go-getter and do it, maybe I'll keep the private list of very few people, not the open list of just law students. But like for example, I had this mixer. It was a law student and lawyer mixer in downtown LA, and I've plugged it for months, gone to law schools, have my listserv of mailers I sent to law students, and so Thursday rolls along, and I go there, and we have like some of the top immigration lawyers in Los Angeles, with of course regards to removal, business, family, entertainment, top attorneys. Looking for internships, looking for clerks, knowing people that need it, wanting to mentor. I mean, it was a who's who. And I was so excited to see that 2 law students show up. 2. And now I know finals are coming up, but all these lawyers, like, I was blown away by the caliber of lawyers from the top firms to the most famous ones, Fragment and Schusterman. Schusterman himself came. And all these other ones, and medium-sized, the smaller ones that need people, and barely any students. We had some new attorneys that show up, which is good, because that's when they realized the reality of what's going on. They were really good, actually. I was really happy that they came, and they're probably going to find some opportunity in the very near future, some good opportunities. But it's really hard. I guess when you're in law school, that you worry so much at the bar, you don't think past that. But that was a big issue. It was very disappointing. But I don't want to leave on that negative note. One thing I forgot to mention, I want to shout out to Susan Hill. She's a great attorney I've been speaking with on and off for the last couple of years, I think. And she's always been helpful in giving me ideas for the show and everything. And I want to appreciate that and send out my appreciation for that. A set of things that did happen this week in my practice were saying no to clients. So one of the ways I do have a lot of time to do these extracurricular activities is that I just say no a lot to a lot of cases, even potentially good cases. I pick and choose my clients, one, based on how interesting the case is, and two is, just if I like the people. I only like to work with clients that I like. So if someone comes and I just don't like their attitude, not to judge their past or anything like that, but if they're rude to me and they treat me like a I don't know what job title to say it's not offensive, but they treat me like a lower status person that I'm just like hustling some paper around them. I tell them, there's a lot of people that could do that for you. Go somewhere else. So if you treat me with respect, I want to do that. So it happens every once in a while, and if it's good money, I let it go. But I have cases where they're business immigration cases. They want to just do it no matter what. But then I look at the business plan, I look at the caliber of the person, I realize, this isn't a good idea. I can't just take your money to this case because there's a good chance it's going to get denied. And so you have to say no to these things when you think there's some issues. And that kind of goes to ethics of, is this case going to work? Is it all this money they're going to pay me is going to be worth it? And I take that into consideration. I think I've talked about that before. But at the same time, I've had cases where I've accepted and got approvals where another firm has said it's not possible. So what I do tell them is, listen, I don't know if I could do it, and that kind of calls into question, my knowledge and everything on the law, but you got to be real with people. I say, maybe this is beyond me, or maybe I don't think you do it. I don't have the experience in this area, but go and talk around and talk to a bunch of people. One thing I tell clients in my consultations, and again, it's not a good sales mechanism, I say, listen, you should always talk to 5 different attorneys. Go to 2 or 3 that don't charge consultation fees, get their opinion. Sometimes people that don't charge consultation fees just do a short thrift and don't really get into details, but sometimes they do. Some of my colleagues do. And then go 2 or 3 people that do charge and see who works best. And I tell them I charge consultation fees because I don't have time. One consultation for me is an hour, and then an hour to 3 hours of post-research, and then having another call, follow-up emails, and in the year after that, they're going to keep calling me, asking more questions to follow-up. So one consultation could easily take 5 hours of my time, easily, even on a simple case. And so there has to be a consultation because I get 10 to 30 people asking for consultations a day. It's not going to be possible. I'm not going to have time to eat or sleep or scratch my head. And so I try to explain that to people, and some people get it, some people don't. But they really need to get a panoply of opinions. I don't know where I came up with that word, but I had it in the brain somewhere. But that was an issue that came up this week for a couple of business cases that contacted me. So it was something on my mind, and I had my notes to talk about. It was the most colorful thing to talk about. But thank you for listening. The 30-minute mark is coming up soon, so I'm going to wrap it up. But I just want to say it's been a pleasure doing this podcast, and keep me posted. Email me. My email is info@jqqlaw.com. There's so many interesting things that are happening right now in immigration, practice of immigration. So I love having this community of people sharing information and be able to get that information and throw it out there to listeners so they could learn about it too and give me their opinions and their ideas. We really need to have a strong community because we really don't have protections. We're maligned as a profession, as lawyers, immigration lawyers particularly. Everyone's out to get us when it comes to politics. If you're in California, we don't have representation in California Bar, even though we're one of the major attorney sections in the state. Politics are coming against us and they're bad mouth, and it could be a dangerous profession even in some areas, being an immigration attorney. So having a network group that we get together, and do that in your areas as well, wherever you are in the country. Contact people in your building that do immigration, across the street, all the towers, and meet on a regular basis. Now, not everyone's into constantly doing this meeting stuff, but have them on the list, have them in your mind, send an email out once in a while, but just make a group. We have a lot of power between the network we have, the number of clients, the amount of revenue we all bring in for our clients, ourselves, everything. We're a very powerful group, but we're just all over the place. And so we have to connect and talk and share information to make sure, our first and foremost duty is to our clients to give the best representation possible. And sometimes that representation requires us that we get together and challenge authority or share information. We have to do that extra bit of work to get my clients where they need to go. And that's real hardcore, true lawyering that you can sleep well at night knowing that you did your best. So these are, this podcast and the extension of it is really an extension of helping my clients. And if it's a podcast you want to do, if it's writing a blog or sharing information, getting groups together, anything you can do more than just getting clients and doing their cases on the minimum and that kind of transactional aspect of immigration law. It's a very personal area of law that goes to people's family lives and their lives in the U.S. Essentially, you're their doctor. If it doesn't work out, their life in the U.S. is over. They're dead in the U.S., just as a medical doctor would lose a patient. So we really have an important job to do, and everything we can do to create better service and increase the likelihood of success in this wild and variable world is something we have to do. It's a duty we have to do. It's not just an extra fun thing to do or an extra extracurricular kind of thing. I think it's mandatory. So to up that level, I really suggest doing everything you can on using these new social media techniques and new technology to increase the effectiveness of your practice and all of our practices. Thank you so much. If you want to listen to the podcast, we're on iTunes. The immigrationlawyerspodcast.com is where I list stuff, different episodes. My email again is info@jqqlaw.com. I post these a video-ish of this on YouTube. I just changed the YouTube page. Apparently the youtube.com/the immigration lawyers channel, I can't title it like that yet because YouTube for some reason doesn't think I'm big enough or something like that, but I'll fix that up. These do exist. Somehow you have to find it. But my old videos are on my law firm YouTube channel, youtube.com/jqqlaw. Law or law firm? I think it's law. And email me if you had questions. I'd be happy to help. I hope you all have a great week. I'll be back next week and hopefully do the midweek podcast that I really want to do if I have the time. Thanks again and have a great one. Bye-bye.